Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mickey. I'm your host on Beyond Page One's podcast. Joining us today is Dean, entrepreneur, storyteller, and creative force behind the top of mind gifts. Dean has turned a simple act of giving into a powerful business strategy, helping companies leave lasting impressions through quality, meaningful gifts. With a background in sales, a passion for appreciation, a first-hand experience in running multiple businesses. We are really thrilled to have him. Dean, welcome to the show. And let's start from the beginning. What first sparked your entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. And I've got an interesting background. I actually have an engineering physics degree, which has nothing to do with what I'm doing now, but it is the kind of the instant start into entrepreneurship because in my last year of university, like maybe many of your viewers, I was recruited by Cutco to sell knives in home, do presentations, and I'd never done sales before, and I did well, ran an office, things like that. So kind of fell into it, if you will, and liked what I was doing. I soon found out that I don't like having a boss. So the employment or traditional, I guess, work life wasn't for me. And I liked the flexibility, the success with sales. And so that was the start. And I did the Cutco for a while. I took a little bit of time off. I actually started my own financial services brokerage, ran that for a decade, learned some lessons, especially in the market crash of 2008 and 9,
Yeah.
and then decided that wasn't the industry for me. Took a little bit of time off then with my son when he was born, and then got reintroduced. I guess I should say I'm married 28 years now. I have three kids, 25, 23, and 15. And so when we had our youngest, I'd taken a few years off while he was, preschool. And then my middle daughter was in university and was recruited by Cutco to sell knives 30 years later, which is kind of a full circle moment.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had Cutco, I've loved it. And the reason I'm mentioning that is it's key to part of the gifting business. So she was selling some knives. I got back in touch with some of the management that I'd worked with who had worked their way up. And I was curious because this was during COVID, how you sell a physical, tangible product on Zoom. Everything I'd done was in person. So I was asking about that, and they'd said that, Cutco's been around 75 years. So they've got quite a history. And in Canada, 30 years, people knew about it at that point, and it was referral based. So the ability to show people and share was much more acceptable or possible than in my day when I was the first rep in Saskatchewan and nobody had ever heard of or seen the product before. So that was an interesting kind of just visit, back in the past. But during that conversation, it came up, what am I doing these days? And I like to joke, playing too much pickleball and being a semi-retired person. And so I said, well, I'm kind of looking for the next step and what to do. And they mentioned that Cutco now had a B2B program, which was different than I'd seen, but it made a lot of sense. I love the product. People I sold to love the product. Lots of people who own it love the product. The biggest objection, I'd say maybe the only one, is it's premium. It costs a lot, and therefore people maybe can't justify or can't afford it. So the idea of having a company using it as a business gift was perfect. It made sense because people love the gift, and there's so much not transactional, I guess, consumable gifting that's done out there that's kind of rote. People do it without really thinking why. That having a practical, thoughtful gift made a lot of sense. And then the marketing side of it, where it's a product that everybody uses, they use it every day when it's branded, they see it every day. And the nature of true top of mind awareness becomes very important for all businesses. And I always like to clarify for people that having customers that like you, like your work, whatever your business is, and are happy with you and even would refer you does not mean that they are the top of mind or that you are top of mind with them. Top of mind means in the 6 seconds, maybe even less nowadays, when somebody asks them for a referral. Hey, I'm moving. Do you know a good realtor? Or, I need to do my shingles again. Do you know a good roofer? You need to be top of mind, which means they don't have to think about it. If
Yeah.
somebody says, "What country do you live in?" You don't have to stop and go, "Geez, I know the name of it, but it's there. It's top of mind." Your spouse's name. You don't have to think. You need to be in that position as a business with your clients to be referred.
Mhm.
And there's huge opportunities. Lots of people will refer you, but if you're not top of mind, they don't, and those opportunities are lost. So there's a big opportunity for businesses to increase their exposure in their business simply by strengthening their relationships with their existing clients and being top of mind. So that's where kind of the full circle came in with Cutco. Love the product, makes good sense as a business gift. Strategically and logistically, there's some really nice benefits. I can work anywhere, drop ship, customize. Everything I do is very tied to an individual business. And that's where the whole business gifting strategy and appreciation kind of came from,
Mhm.
and the idea of top of mind gifts, the company. And it's interesting. I'm not by any means a kind of social engineer or historian or whatever, but I reflect back to prior to my day, even the 60s and the 70s, where business was done over the table, shake of a hand. I trust you. You're going to look after me. I know you, that kind of stuff. And then in the 80s, we started to get a little bit more technology. In the 90s, it was amazing. We were all impressed because we could get access to so much information and we didn't need anybody else. We could research it ourselves. Then social media in the 2000s and things exploding. And then I think about 2010, that decade leading up, probably was, I'm not sure when exactly it happened, but in there, and then the recent boom in I think we've actually got to the point in society where there's too much information, if you can believe that. We
Yeah.
have so much that you can find everything and anything and more than you need to or want to know. And you don't even know how to sift through it, how to decipher it, if it's true or not. So it's funny that about 50 years later, I'm finding more and more businesses are going back to, do you know somebody I can trust?
Yeah.
And that comes very much into appreciation, recognition, top of mind awareness. So we're kind of full circle there. And I like the idea of being at the front of that, but also being unique. I'm not a promo company. I don't do mugs or pens or t-shirts. All I do is the Cutco, the branding, gifting there, and then the pop-up cards, which was something that recently came in.
Awesome. Before founding Top of Mind Gifts, I mean, you mentioned you own several businesses. Can you share some insights from those ventures, how it shaped your current approach?
Yeah, the first thing I guess is I'm a little got some interesting engineering personality traits. A little bit ADHD, shiny thing over here.
Yeah.
I like the details. I get into the nitty gritty. I also tend to get overly hung up on some points that don't necessarily matter. And the reason I bring those up is those things that sometimes can seem innocuous, that they're not really relevant, do have an impact on business. Some ways good, some ways bad. And that combined with, I would say, my uh, innocence in a way, or my willingness to believe people and take them at face value and trust, those are probably some of the maybe hardest lessons I learned, in that it's not that there's people out to get you, but everybody's got ultimately deep down their own self-interests at heart, and you can't just take somebody at face value and assume that they're going to go out of their way to make sure that you're looked after.
Mhm.
And that's just the way it is. So I guess coming to grips with that and looking at, I want to help other people. I like to think my motto is say what you're going to do it, and then make sure you did what you said, and do everything in your power to do that and achieve it. And unfortunately, that's not the common practice in business. There's lots of excuses and other things. So um, that's one of the key things, and that applies again to any business, financial services, sales. I've worked in different types of retail sales. I've sold, Schwans. I've sold ice cream. I love ice cream, but sold ice cream, industrial equipment and so on. Never did practice as an engineer, but it tends to show up in different parts of everything I've done. And then getting back into this, what did somebody call me? Passionately persistent. So that means I don't give up. And if I say I'm going to follow up or do something, I will do it. And that's much to the, I guess, fringe of people who try and ghost nowadays or, don't respond. So I'm very much reverting back from the traditional sales or the even just the sales approach to more the consulting and the information and the service approach. And that comes back to mainly being honest and being blunt. More and more
Yeah.
people, I've been criticized in the past for having the stereotypical engineer. I just ask it straight out. I'm blunt. I'm not politically correct or diplomatic. I've tried to be in sales, but it's refreshing to see that that is actually becoming more and more respected
Yeah.
nowadays in business. And you know, I'm a big boy. I can take no. If you're not interested, tell me. If you are, great. I'll help you. I'll bend over backwards to look after you. But don't mess around. I'll give people a scale now and say, on a scale of 1 to 4, do you want to do business? Are you interested in doing business soon? We should talk. You like it, but not right now, or I'm not interested. Just pick one. Tell me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me which, but let's not waste each other's time on any kind of trying to hide that. So
100%.
yeah, that's kind of some of the
Yeah.
things.
It's funny that you say what you said, because on my mugs I say we do what we say we will do, right? So, just do what you say you're going to do, and life is a lot easier. Your clients are a lot happier. Um, your wife's a lot happier.
The sad thing about that is that that's not a very high bar. Like
I,
it should be the basic of
it
every,
should be the basic,
but
but yeah,
that impresses people nowadays. So
yeah.
yeah.
Was there a defining moment or interaction that you had, that solidified your belief in, a memorable gift?
Um, well, that's a tough question. I don't think there's a single defining
Yeah.
shining moment, but as I look back from the perspective I'm in now, there are things that have happened, whether they be physical, tangible gifts or experiences
Hmm.
that I still remember. I have a poor memory. Like I could forget, what we started doing 15 minutes ago. But there are things still that I can remember from 40 years ago. And a lot of those, well, they're all positive things. They all had impact. Some of them were gifts. I love the Lego set I got for Christmas when I was 9. Uh, I've done things like that. And those to me stand out as, they had an impact. So how can we do that in business? How can you have a similar or some kind of an impact like that? And then, having people where you find the perfect gift, getting to be more recently, and they love the product. In my case, they love their Cutco. They call back. If you give a gift as a business and the client calls you back personally to thank you for it, you've done something right.
Yeah. You,
Um,
you you did a good job. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So some of those experiences have been the best, and the results of that effectively have been. I was telling somebody yesterday, neat and fun, which is as a salesperson, I've tried to go out, promote, represent, sell products, and to
Mhm.
have people happy enough with services and products where they're actually now coming to me, calling me, saying, "Hey, can I buy more from you?" That's, I think, a good reflection, not just of me, but also of the products and the gifts and the effectiveness of it. So, yeah,
100%. Well said. At the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned COVID-19,
yes.
and, obviously directly impacting the world. But how did it impact your business, and what adaptations did you make in response when to, selling a physical product now being online?
Yeah. Well, three things. One, that's why I kind of looked into the Cutco more because I didn't understand how that would work. Obviously,
Hmm.
we're all dealing with a lot, but the ability to work online, and I think in a broad sense, the normalization of Zoom, of media like this, the acceptance, I was in financial services before the turn of the decade, or turn of the century, and we were all excited then about, yay, no more papers, all electronic signatures and everything. And no, that just meant we had to do 2 sets.
Yeah.
But finally, this prompted the ability to have a contract signed electronically and accepted. So those kind of changes really, in a positive way for me, impacted things because what was traditionally a very local in your city, kind of within an hour drive, maybe doing some trade shows type of business, within a year, with some pivoting, became an international business. I could work with somebody. I don't inventory, I don't do the engraving, I don't stock, so I'm not that kind of a business. But in, call it a service business, I could work with somebody in Florida or California as easy as I could work with somebody down the street.
Yeah.
Makes no difference. And so that was huge. The other part of it, I think, is the logistics of my business. I was fortunate in the sense that I can drop ship, I can have things sent. I don't have to worry about large inventories. And again, that was part of the benefits of using or choosing Cutco. Um, One other, I guess, pivot or I guess thing that made me able to adapt is the framework or the way I view my business, and that is that I'm not a coach or anything like that. Do I've found give advice, a lot of things people haven't thought of before. But when I tell people ultimately what I truly think of as my product and what I sell, it's top of mind awareness. It's relationships, strengthening those, getting more referrals. That's what I'm trying to provide. The fact that I use Cutco to do it, awesome product, but it really
Mhm.
doesn't matter. That's not the focus of the business. And so having any tangible product didn't really matter with that philosophy because, on the other end too, any business I talk to, they like the idea, they get it, the logic's there. But when it's deep down, they could care less. They want the referrals. They want the appreciation for their clients. They want that. And how I get it to them doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You had you had mentioned earlier on the 3D pop-up cards. Um,
Yes.
they seem quite unique. Can you A, tell us a little bit about it, and B, can you walk us kind of through the creative process behind designing these cards?
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, interesting story. The more, it's one of those things. The more I network, the more I run into opportunities. They say the harder you work, the luckier you get, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so part of my networking, again, it's unique enough that I have to tell people firsthand. I can't go out and just do Google ads or something. So I do a lot of networking, meet a lot of people, and share a lot of information, which creates some interesting contacts. And one gentleman I met just last year, I guess about a year ago, he was a coach thinking business, and he was, we were talking about what we do, and I told him about the knives and the gifting. And he said, "Oh, there's a guy I think you might be interested in meeting. He does these pop-up cards." And I said, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And he said, "Yeah, I think my wife was saying he actually did a Cutco knife pop-up card." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's pretty cool. I got to see this." And so I met with him and found out about the product. And I have to say, I was familiar with the concept, but what he was doing was quite a bit beyond that. And we got talking, and I liked the idea of using the product. And then the kind of the evolution went from using it to offering it to other people to being a distributor to building a distributor base, kind of looking after Canada. And now I won't say everything, but I'm kind of behind the national, international distributor base distributor program and building that base as well as doing some retail and larger events. But it's a crazy story and introduction in business because we're the only ones that do what we do. And what I mean by that is there are pop-up cards, there are pop-up card companies out there, but we're business to business focused and we build the 3D models. So it's not a generic, you buy it off the shelf, it's already there. We will take themes, we'll take ideas, we'll be creative, and we'll actually make something for you. And that can be houses, it can be animals, it can be themes. If it's video, you guys can see stuff like this. Here's one great for real estate. A little thank you card.
Yeah. Wow.
If you got this as a thank you card when you bought your house, I think you'd be pretty impressed.
I think,
Um,
yeah. No kidding.
there's one I did car dealerships. There's my little car, which is again tailored. That's my car, tailored to me. And everybody recognizes this lady.
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty. There's one from New York, and on and on. There's hundreds of different cards that I could show you, but all of those models are not generic. They're built for specific people or purposes, and that makes them that much more unique. Everybody's got a kid in them. Everybody loves a pop-up card, period. We remember the princess and the dragon books and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the ability to combine that with something that breaks through the noise nowadays, that actually gets to the person you want to get it to, that is read by the person that is intended for, and for the most part, that is kept and shown by that person to others, which, again, the fact that nobody else does it is great for me now and was quite flabbergasting back when I first found out about it, because the marketing side for me, I was like, this is amazing. This everybody should be doing this. And the fact that nobody else was is great. Then there's one other further aspect, which is even cooler, and this is more on a global basis. We do the regular, medium, small, large cards, traditional sizes you'd see in the stores, but we do mini ones. And these are business card size, but they are
Cool.
business card pop-up. So this is for trades company. And the story I have there that's kind of funny is I talk to plumbers, and most people think, oh, I'll put my logo, or I'll put something, that's my name or something like that. And I've said, this is an experience. People can see your name, they can see your logo. You're a plumber. To me, what would stick out is, let's have a toilet pop up. That you're not going to forget. And you're going to keep the card, and you're going to know where it is, and you're going to refer people if they ever ask about it. And in some cases, depending, Christmas cards and other things, they even get left out and displayed. So they create business, they create conversations about a company that never would come up otherwise. And there's that one. Also the audience, a few others, because to get the idea of the scope or what we can actually do is pretty crazy. This one for an airline or a travel company with their airplane. This is my traditional, my old one, gift box, obviously gifting company.
Yeah.
And I'll end with the staggering. Some people like it, some people don't, but everybody remembers it. This is my card now. And there's me.
No way. That's awesome.
So, yeah, we can do amazing things. And there's so many different applications. And the fact that it's so effective nowadays in the environment, something tangible, something high quality, something that, you get in the mail, which is so, foreign nowadays. It's just effective on so many levels.
It's got my wheels turning for, when I send holiday cards or even thank you cards after we work with a client for a long time, like,
Yeah.
I can't write these cards, which is great and it's a nice sentiment, but like, it'd be really cool if it could pop up and their logo pops up in that card or whatever.
And what you just said there, their logo. Now, sometimes that's hard because you have customers and you have a whole bunch of different logos. So we have to do some production lines, but
Hmm.
focusing on them, doing different ways to feature the customer, because everybody feels special about themselves, even
Yeah.
if they say they don't. So that's probably one of the themes to the entire business is, it's about them. It's not about you. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with branding and being remembered. I don't think that you can't have your name or an association with yourself, but it has to be genuine. And the cards you were saying at Christmas, it's one of the craziest things where I'm going to just make a generalization. We all know you get lots of cards at Christmas time. They go on the shelf, they go on the back wall, they go on the string hanging up or whatever. I'm not sure if they ever get read, certainly by the people I want to send them to, much less the admin staff. After that, they're left there and hopefully recycled at the end of the season. But our cards not only get out, they get opened, they get shown, they get to the people they want, they pass on the message. That's all great. But they also are art. It's called kirigami. It's a Vietnamese art form. And they get left out and displayed because they're just cool. And that has other people. So you've given something to your client, they're displaying it because it's cool, and their clients come in and see it, and they also think it's cool. So they ask about it.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, you've got something that your clients are actually promoting you without you ever being there. It's like, it's amazing. Same thing at trade shows. A lot of people doing vendors and booths. You can imagine everybody's got their swag bag and
Yeah.
what we're trying to do. But people give out these cards, but business cards, and they're neat. People go around, they play with them, they look at them. Other people see them, go, "Oh, where'd you get that?" Because I don't know. For me, at least, half of the things at a trade show, you're just going around getting cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so people go back to the booth just to get their own pop-up card to play with. But if you're a vendor at a trade show, really, that's what you want. It's just somebody coming up to say hi that you can actually talk to instead of trying to grab people and pull them in off the aisle. So they're very effective there as well. Fundraisers, nonprofit, black tie, big events.
Hmm.
If you happen to know, if anybody happens to know, I want to get in touch with a person that organizes one of these huge celebrity events or social events. Because picture this, I want to have at the Oscars, we have the announcements, the runners up and everything, and the winner is, and you get the envelope, right? They
You
open
open it and
it's the Oscar, right? I was like, that would be so cool.
that would be awesome.
It And not only that, those are people that are hard to impress. I mean, they've seen it all, they've been given it all, and I know for a fact they've never seen this. So I think it would be great. But anyways, that's one of my dreams or my projects for at some point.
Huh, that's really cool. Well, my next question actually leads into, you know, scaling top of mind gifts. So obviously, giving out gift cards like this, or sorry, gift cards, giving out these cards is going to get you more leads, or more people are going to, see it. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that that's been an effective way of scaling, right? What are some other ways that you've scaled?
A big part is automation and to some degree AI nowadays.
Okay.
Maybe that's the engineer in me, but I'm not scared of it. I'm healthily cautious about some of the things it can do nowadays because I've got a little bit of an understanding. But the ability to have a lot of the redundant tasks managed and looked after really appealed to me, and I've taken interest and impacted or affected them. Things from here's a free plug, I should maybe charge them for it, but Go High Level, that's my CRM and I
That's
love
my
it.
that's my serum.
There you go. I can do all kinds of stuff with it, um, and it's not only beneficial for me, there's the immediate service side of it, there's the automated touch points that you couldn't do otherwise, but the ability to tie it all together and to make a plan and actually have something where it will be executed. Barring technology, obviously there's always technology issues, but there's definitely an aspect of being able to rely on that happening instead of trying to have somebody remembering or all the effort in doing that. And it also frees up the human labor side of it to do things that machines can't. Instead of repeatedly typing out an email, maybe it's spending time thinking about the best way or the way to craft it, that kind of thing. So that's a huge part of scaling for me, is the ability to automate and systemize and really the limitless scaling involved with that. I don't need to hire more staff. The computer runs,
24/7.
100,000, 100,000, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And so that frees me up to ultimately get to the point where all I do is meet with people and share ideas and, get things started with what they want, which is a pretty cool place to be in.
That is very cool. What about like marketing channels? What have you found? Which marketing channels have been most effective to catch your target audience?
Uh, Networking is
Yeah.
for me the biggest one. Now, um, marketing, a lot of people think of the social media, the ads, the paid ads, all that kind of stuff, SEO, searching stuff. For my particular business, and I won't say this for everybody, but it's common sense. I mean, I tell people knife, everybody uses it, branded, they see it every day. It's like, oh, that makes sense. And I'd
Yeah.
never thought of it, but it makes sense. And yet I can't get that message across in an ad or in a 15-second reel or whatever, because the little things behind it make the difference. And I have to tell people that. For me, networking in person, that's one thing I can't really scale. And it's word of mouth scales, but I can only go out and see so many people. And so that's the best way to provide the most information to the most people because I need to do it in person.
Yeah.
The ability, the reason, one of the things I chose Cutco for as well is the ability to have their production. So I can order a gift or 5 gifts, but I can order 500 and I can expect the same quality gift, the same timelines, and be able to deliver. And that was important to me because if I have expectations I'm setting for clients, I want to be able to deliver on that. The downside is there's a lot of great artisans and craftspeople that make really cool stuff, but I'm not doing a one-off business, so I can't use those kind of things. Same thing with the cards. We have the ability to manufacture. We've done 150 is the minimum run from a printing standpoint or production, but we've done 10,000 runs like that. Great for bigger company. We had a pharmaceutical company that they actually had us create their molecular structure, their atom, their molecule of their new drug. And that was the pop up. And they used a
Oh,
trade show and stuff like that. So, again, just really creative ideas, but the ability to scale really on any level that way and support is important as well. I've I've understood and learned that as much as sometimes even still I get trapped in being in the business and doing the work, especially stuff that I like to do, that's
hmm.
not necessarily something I should be doing, but I like to. The ability to step outside of that and work on the business is crucial to any kind of scaling. And so that's something think everybody struggles with or, has to do better at.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a great segue to actually the next kind of question that I had for you. Managing that work-life balance, especially when creativity is a key component of your work and networking and being out there and being the face of it. How do you do it as a business owner?
It's been tough. My personality is such that when I get interested in something, I dive in wholeheartedly. And to some extent, that's the ADHD part of it. When I get
Mhm.
focused, I can lose hours. I can be absorbed in something. And that's tough on relationships. It's great on whatever I'm focusing on, but it can distort other things. So over the years, as I get older, I'd like to think I mature a bit. The idea of saying I need to be aware of that and I need to draw some boundaries and I need to respect other people in my life. Yeah, I think have some boundaries in sales. It's tough. There's the employee mindset, and that's not a bad thing. It's just the whole philosophical way of viewing work. And then there's the entrepreneurial mindset and the differences there. 9 to 5, I clock in, I clock out, I'm getting paid no matter what I'm doing, versus I work when I need to work. I can take time off, but I need to work sometimes when at home or at night. I don't get paid for every hour, but sometimes I get paid 10 grand for an hour and that kind of thing. So the figuring out the way to have people on both sides of that fence work together is important. And from the entrepreneurial standpoint, understanding that there are some boundaries are important. From the employee standpoint, from those people, a little bit of patience with the fact that, I do have to work. Whoever the entrepreneur has to work at odd hours or sometimes just to make a client happy, but that there are positives to go with that too. So I don't know that anybody ever perfectly balances it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely an important piece. And I think delegation is an important part of that as well. The ultimate example I heard somebody was saying is they have 5 personal assistants. And I was like, one definitely justifiable, maybe two, but 5, come on. I mean, that's an ego play more than anything. And
Yeah.
he said, yeah, it seems like that. And it was weird getting to this place. But he said, I should only be doing something that pays me what I'm worth or that I want and like to do. Anything else should be delegated.
100%. Yeah. It's delegation is a big part of, building a business, but then trusting those people beneath you too, right? That they're going to get the job done right, whether it's driving your kids to work or whether it's coming up with that proposal or that slide deck, whatever it might be, right? What advice would you give entrepreneurs looking to differentiate themselves in a saturated market, especially like gifts, or promo items and things like that? There's a lot.
There's a lot of people that have a race to the bottom,
Yeah.
cheapest price. And I think one of the things, maybe very starting foundation, is respect for yourself and your worth. If you don't believe you're better, different, special, can offer more to your clients, then ultimately the only thing that does distinguish you is the price. So, and that really nowadays, as much as it's an excuse and it's the reason given, it's very far down the list of the reasons why people actually buy things. Maybe outside of large, corporations, Fortune 500, that have, shareholders they have to appease, things like that. So having that mindset and then believing it and implementing it. Why, having a why? Why am I different? If you don't know why you're better than your competitors, then, fair question is, are you?
Yeah.
So what is your I don't know, they're cliche, but what is your mission? What is your vision? What is your, fundamental philosophy? And understanding that, believing it, and then having that represented in everything you do. Those kind of things, I think, are important to be able to then say, I'm special, I'm different, and to own that too. In gifting and in appreciation, sometimes talk to people who are embarrassed. I want to do this for you, but it's nothing really big or not important and stuff. And they downplay themselves. And I'm guilty of doing that too sometimes. But you have to you have to believe what you do and why you do it. I'm very passionate about why, I do the gifts I do, and I'm very happy with them. I can't represent things that I don't believe in. Um, so having that whole mentality is there. And then shameless plug here, doing some creative gifting like knives or pop-up cards, of course, to help differentiate you and so on. But seriously, any product, not any product, any high quality, non consumable product where thoughts put in, they're all going to work. Handwritten cards, like you said, are probably the easiest, cheapest thing that an average, any entrepreneur can do that has a really big impact that a lot of people don't realize. I was just talking to somebody, maybe it was even this week or last week, and they said, something as little as a company was sending me a birthday card. Now, I get those too, and quite honestly, I maybe read them, it's not a big thing. But in their case, they said it wasn't getting the cards that was that had the biggest impact. It was when they stopped doing that that it really became apparent that I'm not even worth this anymore. And eventually they switched businesses. So thinking about how important those things are, unfortunately, most people don't really understand until they have a negative consequence from it. They lose that key employee that all they needed to do was show a little bit more appreciation, say thank you once in a while, express how important they are. That keeps people happy and working for you. And even just forgetting to do stuff like that can have a huge impact, much more so than a wage or an hourly, negotiation or things like that. So I would say having your values, having your being rooted or grounded in what you do, why you do it, believing that you are different and actually being different for whatever reason. Some people, and it's fair enough, say, ultimately, I do your books. I do them well. I'm competent, but I'm here for you. You like me. That's how I'm different. I'm a likable person,
Yeah.
or I'm available more often than others. There's lots of different ways to be unique and to stand out. And you've got to do something nowadays. Otherwise, you aren't going to be remembered. You aren't going to be used.
Well said. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Looking ahead, what is your vision next 3 or 5 years from now? Is it about scaling, deepening the experience, or something else entirely?
It's interesting. I Again, combination of attention, other things. I love new ideas and exploring and big picture. And I have to say, I don't really like or am not very good at the minutia, actually executing it. Here's what we want to do. Here's why it's going to be great. Here's how you should do it, but you do it, not me.
Mhm.
And that's just more of a personality thing. So I would like to get these scaled, but also systemized and automated where, most of the things I don't have to do. And then also bring in the right kind of people to help grow it. But I think I'm always going to be open to or looking for new ideas, things to explore, just because of the creative side of it, and the opportunity, the excitement of something new. So I think the businesses will be here. I think they'll be scaled, successful, growing. But I think I will have less and less to do with the day to day, or even in some respects, the bigger overall.
That's very cool. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I don't have any other questions. If there's anything else that you want to share, please go ahead.
Yeah. Um, I love to help people and share. So if I can be of help or assistance to anybody that's watching, I'd love to meet. I love to network. I think you're probably going to have the information in the chat, like the websites. And so top of mind gifts and strategic 3D cards, look them up. If there's anything I can do for you, great. And thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for coming down, Dean. And yeah, like you said, I'll be linking all of your socials and everything below or above, depending on what platform you're watching on. And yeah, reach out to Dean and ask any questions. He seems like he will be quick to answer and pretty knowledgeable in what he does. So thanks again, Dean. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. See you later.